Hey, thanks for joining Tammy DeCaro Art and Create Monthly Club. I wanted to pop a quick video up on wood substrates. I'm in a lot of glass and resin groups and painting groups for fluid art, even traditional art painting, and I see a lot of questions about substrates and how to prepare different surfaces for painting, specifically wood. I am actually going to do another video on canvas and non-traditional substrates. But for this one, I want to talk about wood. So the most common that you see is a cradled wood panel. This is a cradled wood panel, I believe by Meaden, though I'm not positive because I took off the plastic. The thing you have to really pay attention to is stuff like this, where there's a divot. In some of the less expensive cradled wood panels online, you will see sometimes that like there's a prime edge right here, but not the rest of the piece. There's also some individual, I guess, flaws on these cheaper versions. It does have a separate beech or birch top, and it's cradled. And what they mean by that is it's built with a wood cradle similar to your gallery wrapped canvases. The depth can be different depending on which surface you're using. And you can buy them completely bare, unfinished, like this. But if you notice, there are, little hairs that stick up. It's not a completely fine, smooth piece. This is going to take a little bit of preparation in order to use it because, ideally, especially if you're going to use this for glass and resin, this would need to be primed, sanded, primed again in order to seal it for resin, because if you threw resin straight on this, you might be okay on the top, but the sides are going to probably pick up all of this debris, and not only can you get that in your resin, but you could also get a lot of air bubbles because wood is porous unless it is sealed. Some other options, I've seen people buy actual rounds online or on Etsy, and again, you have to really pay attention to these sides. They're not fine. If you look at that, they're really rough. That's going to require some sanding and priming. I like to wipe them down with alcohol wipes, prime them, sand them, and then prime them again. That's a lot of work if you are wanting to use this for a piece of art. But in order to keep it from warping or putting air bubbles in your varnish or your paint, you do have to seal it somehow. Now, this particular piece I use for my clay projects, so I'm not worried about it. And that's what you see on there is the residue from a clay project. Another option is Hobby Lobby has Master's Touch cradled wood panels. They have them in different heights. This is the, I think it's 7/8 inch. They're okay. They're very smooth. They do have a rounded edge here, which can make taping difficult sometimes, but that's all right. Personally, and if anybody from these art companies is paying attention, I think the rounded edge needs to be here because what happens with these wood hard edge 90-degree things in fluid art is that the paint will come over to that and then it stretches there and you get this stretched paint effect on the side where it's not fully covered because of that hard edge. And because of that, that's why I prime them first. And most of the time, I use this product. It's by Zinsser 123. You can also buy it in gray, by the way, which I find is a better color to prime with because it's very neutral and doesn't take as much to hide the color as the white does. But what I do occasionally is I will prime twice with this and then come over it with a Rust-Oleum color that I like. Now, this says paint plus primer, but I have to tell you, I haven't had great luck with it really sealing the wood. So that's why I start with this, and then I'll add another coat if I want it a different color. So those are the primers that I use often. And of course, it's summer, fall, early fall in Florida. We're getting a hurricane right now. So it makes it difficult when you have daily rains in the summer to prime, because you do have to do that outside. You don't want to be doing that inside your studio or your house because of the fumes. So just cautionary note, you really have to plan ahead. Then one of my favorite cradled wood panels is by Da Vinci. This is medium textured, and when you see medium textured, smooth textured, or sometimes you'll see what's called resist grip, it refers to this surface right here. Now for fluidart, I am not too concerned about that because I generally use paints that are thick enough to fill in any kind of resist grip texture that's on there. By the way, Hobby Lobby also has a primed series of wood panels that often will have either a smooth or a rough, coarse texture is what they call it. And those are awesome. The primer on those is really good. But you can't always find those in the sizes that you want. You can't always find these in the sizes that you want. So sometimes I end up buying what I would consider lesser expensive brands just because I can't find the size that I want. And while you could build your own wood panels, it is not a labor that I'm interested in undertaking at this point in my life. I don't stretch my own canvases. I think that's a waste of time. I'd rather be painting. But some people enjoy those things. There are some great YouTube videos out about that. Let's talk real quick about this Da Vinci cradle wood panel. You see that there is actually 2 layers there of wood on the top. This is primed on the top, but not on the sides. Now, Ampersand is another brand that often has cradled wood panels. And truly, I love those because you can buy them primed on all sides. However, the sizes they offer are limited. So, you know, sometimes it's really what brand I choose is dependent upon what size I can find first and foremost. And then if I can find it primed, I'll pay the extra money for that because it's worth it. If I can't find it primed, then of course I've got to go through the whole priming process myself, which is not fun in Florida where it rains all the time. But again, this is it's not completely smooth here. So before I prime this, I would probably hit this with about, I don't know, 120 grit sandpaper just to clean it up a little bit, wipe it down, prime it on the sides. I wouldn't worry about the top. And of course, before you do any kind of priming, the best thing to do is to tape the back of your piece, especially if you're going to do resin. But even with painting, I find that taping the back of the piece is important. Now, here's a surface flaw on this one. I'm not worried about that. Once I prime and paint, it will most likely fill in, especially with resin because resin is self-leveling. That's actually the easier kind of flaw to deal with. What is not easy is, I don't know if this is the one that has it. This one has what I call a smashed corner. So I'm actually going to have to fix that, and I may end up framing this one because of that smashed corner. And I'm probably a little pickier about these things than a lot of people. The next thing I would like to talk about is just taping the backs. So you see here, these have kind of a rounded edge. Let me find one that's not taped. See that? It's like a rounded edge there and here. And that can make taping sometimes a little challenging. The reason you want to tape is because obviously you are going to get paint drips, and especially with resin, you're going to get resin drips, and the paint will be fine. It'll flatten out usually on its own, but resin does not. So you get these resin drips here, and when I start removing this tape, which I will do with a hair dryer, not a heat gun, because I find the heat gun gets too hot, and you can actually get it so hot that you burn yourself. I find that a hair dryer on high heat works really well. You want to pull this tape when you start pulling it. Of course, this has not been heated up yet, but you want to pull it towards you versus this way, because here's the tape line. Let me see if I can get that close. Here's the tape line, and if we pull it that direction, it's going to delaminate that paint and resin from the wood backing, which we certainly wouldn't want to see. I like to score it with a X-Acto knife right on that edge where the tape line is, and then heat it up and it'll pull right off. Sometimes if I have a really stubborn one, I'll come in after I heat it up with this X-Acto knife and run it under the tape to pull it off. And that way you don't have any of those issues with delaminating. And while we're here, let's just look at that beautiful metallic side of paint. This is a Lazy Susan that was painted first, and we did a clear acrylic coat to seal it. And it's got some beautiful shimmers of purple and all kinds of stuff in it. So back to taping. I typically will do my tape down both sides and then come in with a finishing piece across the edge. I find that on these rounded sides, or even a very square side, it's difficult to get this tiny edge exactly where you want it. So what I will do is put my ruler, this is a heavy metal ruler, and that is how I will cut my tape. The X-Acto knife rests just on the edge of that, and I can use the ruler to guide me, which helps keep the X-Acto knife from slipping off, which is often what happens when you're trying to cut on a not flat surface and get that edge as close to the piece as you need it. After I tape, I always come in with a Sharpie or the wooden handle of a paintbrush and just burnish this part. You don't have to do it on this part, but I do it on this part to ensure that I get a good adhesion. This is the Sharp Lines blue tape, which is my favorite. Also on Cradled Wood Panels, there is US Art Supply, which I will link my Amazon shop to this video so that you can see those. I like them. They are a good quality. They're always unprimed, so that's one of the challenges. But, you know, they're still a pretty good quality. They don't have as many flaws. They've got a really good profile. And again, priming them with spray paint makes it really fast. Now, I see a lot of questions about gesso and wood. Now, gesso is basically just heavily pigmented titanium white paint. So it doesn't really have primer necessarily like you would find in a household primer. And, you know, if you want to put a bunch of coats of gesso on this and sand in between and wait for them to dry, that's awesome. However, I find that a laborious process and a pain in the neck to deal with. So I prefer to tape and prime, usually, especially when it's, you know, decent weather out. I can top coat again in 30 minutes. So I can get both my coats of priming done within, you know, an hour. And I usually don't paint on it immediately. I let it sit overnight, but that's going to be much faster than doing multiple layers of gesso. That's just my opinion. I think these do better with priming. And when you look at the amount of resin projects I've done, you know, I think I'm on my 275th Lazy Susan I've sold, which is wood, multiple gigantic beach pieces that I always prime ahead of time. I've certainly, you know, learned quickly how to do it efficiently and also to get it done as fast as possible, because I don't like to spend all my time on preparation. I like to spend my time on creation and painting. So, you know, can you use gesso? Yeah, you could. If you're just painting it, then there's nothing wrong with that. But if you're going to go in with resin especially, you do really have to think about the fact that wood is porous, and even kiln dried treated wood is porous. So, you know, you've got a lot of things going against you there to get a good resin coat, and there's nothing more frustrating than hitting a piece of art with resin multiple times because you keep getting a bubble that comes up much later due to a wood surface that's not adequately primed. So that's my 2 cents on that. I'm sure there's lots of people who would disagree with me, but okay, so a couple of other non-traditional surfaces. So this is a wood round. You can buy this at Hobby Lobby. It does not have its second coat yet. And the reason I wanted to show it to you, I'm not sure I can get the light to do it, is this, see, this is really light. You can still see wood grain. There's also a defect here. So what I'm gonna do before I prime again, clean this thoroughly, put a little wood glue in there, let it dry, sand it flat, sand the whole thing with 120 grit. And I'm really gonna pay attention to these edges. It's so big, I don't know if I can get it in the frame. These edges are somewhat rough cut, and because they are made of stacked wood, essentially, it's not a flush, smooth finish. So I find that one coat of primer usually is the best place to start. Then I'll sand, and I do have an electric orbital sander, which cuts out a lot of the work. But, you know, on little ones like this, I'll just hit that with regular sandpaper without the electric one. But when you get into something larger like this, or in the much larger pieces I do, particularly aluminum, where I may need to prime it first, I always use that electric sander because it's much better than I am. So this is a little bit of a non-traditional type, and you can see that it's taped all the way up to the edge. I did burnish these edges already for the first layer of priming. When I tape these, especially Lazy Susans or anything big and round, it takes a lot of tape. So I usually will tape down plastic first, which saves me on taping the whole surface of the underside. And And that's a life-saving step in terms of the amount of time that goes into it. And I, definitely think that it's important to cut out as much of that work as possible for yourself on non-traditional surfaces. And if you're watching this channel for the first time, if you could please like and subscribe and comment, I would really appreciate that. You may or may not know, I accidentally deleted my YouTube channel, which was a super fail on my part. I was trying to clean up other YouTube accounts that I had and did not realize the email I deleted was related to this YouTube channel that I had going strong. And now I'm building back up because you can't retrieve a YouTube channel when you've deleted it, unfortunately. So, yeah. I will post an older video I did of taping a Lazy Susan and the faster way I found to tape the Lazy Susan because round things are a little difficult to tape. So come back because I have another video I'm going to talk about canvases and different types of canvases, and then non-traditional surfaces. So, and that one's going to be a little bit different. So hopefully I'll get to see you back again. In the meantime, go check out my website, createmonthlyclub.com. We'll be launching a one-time art kit later this week on the glass and resin Christmas tree project, which is this one. And you'll have a choice of colors. And that's actually on a cradled wood panel. Also, these fantastic little cups are awesome. I had those made for my art subscription box. And what I love about them is they have a spout, they have a handle, and they have a lid. So you can easily pour from it. They make wonderful ring pours because that spout is narrow. So they're in milliliters and they go all the way up to, I want to say 80 milliliter size. Or I'm sorry, 80 ounce size. It's 3,000 milliliters. So there's 4 sizes available. So I'll be listing those soon on the website, Create Monthly Club. And we've got lots of other things coming your way. So hopefully we'll get to see you soon. If you liked this video, please comment and let me know. It really helps people grow. And I would love to also find out what your questions are. If you have questions about resin or painting, fluid art, I would love to hear them because I can do a video on them and answer those questions. Thank you. Have a great day.